to bring disciples to Jesus Christ. Pray that you will be with them through this transition into retirement, and we know that they will continue in ministry, possibly in a new form, but we know that you will continue to use them in some form of ministry for your service. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I'm the benefits administrator here at the office, so if you continue to have, even in retirement, continue to have questions regarding should you be under 65 and retiring and want to stay on and are currently on the conference health insurance and want to continue to do that, you'll have that opportunity. I will be sending out a letter to everyone who's eligible for that and asking you, do you wish to continue? Do you have your staff on? Do they want to continue? So that we know who wants to stay on the conference health insurance even after retirement if you are currently on it and are not 65.
Oh, okay, up to 65.
Yeah. So if you're 65 and are currently on the health insurance, that will end as of June 30th. So July 1, you'll need Medicare. And Jenny is a resource for you for that. She has been trained with a group here in town that provides assistance to those who are 65 and older who need to purchase a Medicare supplement plan, a Part D plan. So I know she had some handouts that she could give you with information. So if you want information about that, would like Jenny's assistant, you can see her. She'll be here through the event. So, and she works here at the office, so she would continue to be a resource for you as well. You can always give her a call. So, I wanted to just to begin before we went and let Josie start her presentation is just to go around the room, introduce yourself, say where you are, if you're serving in full-time ministry, part-time ministry, how many years you've been doing ministry. So why don't we start over here?
Okay, Jack DeWeese, Liberty, full-time, part of the pastoral team, and I think I'm a second career, so I think I got like 14 years.
Okay.
Richard Parker, I'm presently tipped into Fortuna full-time. In between part-time and full-time, I have about 18 years of service.
Julius Ketzberg, my wife Carolyn, we're at Macon United Methodist Church. We'll have 30 years in.
Colonel Gray, Festus, Crystal City, 39.
Ron Brooks in Kansas City. I think it's 37.
Paul Zimmerman, full-time in Cameron in the Pony Express District, 22 finishing.
Amy Pirro, Hardwood North District, 14 years, and I'm presently at Buckner United Methodist Church.
Art Ellsworth. I am not serving a church at the present time on disability and going into retirement, but I've been serving 14 years, and I'm an associate member.
Okay.
Last time I served full term was at Butler, and I live near their house.
Okay.
I'm Vicki Miller Taggart, and I've been on family leave for, I guess this is 15 years now. I have a son in basketball, which is why I took family leave about 15 years ago. I've always served rural areas, which is fine until you need services for kids with problems. So that's why I chose, rather than to counteract the attendance system, which I believe in, I just chose to go on family leave. Second career for me, I'm also a clinical social worker. I had 12 years in that before the December.
Wonderful. It's always interesting to go around the room and see the wide variety of ministry that we do here in the Missouri Conference and see those who are second career, those who have been in it for a lifetime, and it's just, I always am intrigued to hear that. So I enjoy listening to what all of you have done in your ministry. So I'm going to go ahead and, unless any of you have any questions for me, I'm going to go ahead and let Josie begin because I know that's why you're here. I'll be here for the morning too, so if you have any questions, feel free to come up.
I have one brief question. The insurance, are you going to cover that later?
I'm going to what?
Are you going to cover that later?
Oh, the
Conference insurance?
if you're staying on it,
Uh-huh.
I mean, it'll stay exactly the
Does
same.
that transfer out of state?
You're going to transfer out of state, you can still stay on it. Mhm.
Yeah, I know my wife had United Healthcare. They wouldn't transfer it out of the Missouri retirement system.
No,
in Texas?
no, you can do that. If she's currently in the Health Flex plan, she can stay in until she's
No,
65.
she's on the retirement system
Oh,
for
okay.
teachers. I just wondered.
Okay, all right. Any other questions?
Any experience yet with the health exchange for folks that are retiring? Is it?
For like if you're not
Under
65 and need to
yeah.
have
Is it-
something?
is it
No, I mean, we haven't had anybody utilize that since it just started January 1st. I would definitely recommend checking it out.
Have a lot of patience.
Yeah, especially if, you know, how old are, I'm sorry, how old are you?
63.
63, so you'd be 2 years.
Yeah.
So it might be definitely worth your time checking it out. I know I visited with some other retirees that had like, you know, 7 months or something like that
Yeah,
before they were
that's not
65.
worth
I said it's probably not worth the effort of making the change.
Okay.
But if you're more, you know, have a longer time like you, I would definitely recommend looking at it
Okay.
and just weighing your options and see if you can find something comparable
Okay.
as far as coverage. That would be my main recommendation, is just to make sure it's a comparable coverage for what you currently have. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to compare the cost. Because you might have more out-of-pocket expense with something like that, even if the premium is less. So that would be something I would just recommend.
Okay. That'll just be a month-to-month billing if you stay on it, basically?
Yes, we would, if you choose to stay on, we would bill, the conference would, instead of billing the local church,
Right.
we would bill you
Bill
as
us
an individual.
month-to-month, just like it's been doing.
Yep, mhm,
Same rate?
huh?
Same rate?
Same rate, yeah, everything stays exactly the same, coverage, nothing changes.
Okay.
You just move into a retired status.
I make a recommendation based on my
Uh-huh.
experience. I was 65 in January and already have done a lot of research online to figure out what the hell we want to do. I finally gave up and retained the Medicare healthcare specialist. They don't charge you anything, it's the insurance companies that pay them information. He was very helpful to sort through the plans that were appropriate for my husband and I.
Mhm.
So I would suggest doing that, you cut through a lot of crap.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's the same way that Jenny's been trained too with the company here in town. They don't have contract with any company, so they don't like say, you know, pressure you with United Healthcare or a certain, because they just look at the whole picture. They say what works probably for your needs and, you know, can give you suggestions and then you actually make the decision. But the company we had her trained with is not affiliated with a certain insurance company, so there's no pressure to go with that.
Most of them are limited to how many plans they're gonna deal with. That's why I did the initial sorting out before I went.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So, but yes, it would, if you choose to stay on, if you're currently on, you can do that, stay on, and your spouse if they're currently on, and everything would be exactly the same, you just move into a retired status. But I would recommend for those who have a longer time before they're 65 to definitely look at the exchanges and see if it's a viable option or not. So. Any other questions? Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and let Josie start, and as I know, we've got a lot of things to get through, and I hope everyone's got their packets, and if not, I'll pass out what Josie needs for you. So.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, my name's Josie Martinez. I'm the conference liaison for the Missouri Conference. So my employer is the General Board of Pensions and Health Benefits in Glenview, Illinois. What we're going to do today is talk about retirement in terms of your packet, the one that you got from the General Board. As I mentioned earlier, for those who are here, this packet that you receive contains application forms. And the application forms are very important because you need to complete them. And once you've completed them, this will remain on file for the rest of your lifetime and beyond, because your spouse is going to continue the benefit. So we want to make sure that the information that you have received and the decisions that you're going to make are what you really want for the future. If you submit this form and you feel that you made a mistake, you need to call us right away. Because once it's been submitted and processed, you cannot change it anymore. It's irrevocable. That's why I do have some pencils here if you want to use pencils in the meantime, or forms in terms of example forms. And we're going to go through each one of them, each of the forms that's important that you need to complete, depending on your plan. Everyone's got different plans, so some of you might not have the pre-82 plan. So just be patient because we're going to go through each of the plans and then other things. The first thing I want you to do, and by the way, this is what we're going to talk about. The Comprehensive Protection Plan, which is the Death and Disability Program. Okay, this is not a plan that everyone has because it has some eligibility requirements. One of them is you should have been serving full-time at least 2 years or 5 years before retirement. And then your compensation should be of a certain level. So if you're not sure whether you are enrolled in this plan, talk to Trudy. Trudy would know. Then we're going to talk about the retirement plans. You see there's different kinds of plans. You've got the Retirement Security Program or the CRSP, and then underneath that you have the Defined Benefit, Defined Contribution, the prior plan, which is the Ministerial Pension Plan, and then of course the Minister's Reserve Pension Plan a long time ago. And we're going to talk about the United Methodist Personal Investment Plan. That's the voluntary plan that you hopefully are participating in. We're going to talk about the new Benefits Access Program that you can avail of, which is the Life Stage Investment, Ernst & Young, and then Housing Allowance Exclusion. This is usually the part where people are very anxious about. Okay, I'm just going to give you a caveat here, a disclaimer. I'm not going to tell you how to avoid taxes. I'm just going to tell you how to minimize taxes, because that's something you have to figure out yourself. And there are ways. As clergy, you have this privilege. And then the retirement team. Okay, someone said, am I part of the retirement team? The answer is no. My relationship with your conference is I work with your conference leadership. And usually there's someone that talks about benefits, and they're the benefit educators. But at this point, I attended your clergy support team meeting yesterday, so I decided, let me just do this as well. This is the retirement team. First and foremost, this is not a clip art. These are real people, okay? So the names that you have on the card, I will mention 3 of them because those are the 3 people I know. The gentleman over here is John De Jesus. That's the team leader, the supervisor of the retirement team. The other 2 people that I know are this lady with glasses is Lisa, and at the other end wearing black is Carol. They have been with the retirement team for a long time. So what do? All they do, actually all the time, is they assist retirees. So these are your dedicated group of people who can answer your questions with regards to your forms, because they're the ones that created the forms. And I have to tell them when I get back to the office that in some instances they gave 2 forms. The gentleman over here has 2 and over there did 2. And I'm like, why? Hopefully they're the same numbers, because if they're not the same numbers, then there's an issue. Okay, so they can walk you through the process, or and they will check your forms. They're the one that checks your forms when you send it back. You send it back to them, they'll make sure the forms are completed the way it should be, okay? So they're going to help you through the retirement season this year. Next year, you have some questions because you haven't taken some of the money, you cannot call them, okay? You cannot call them. I'm telling you up front, you can't call them because they will refer you to the customer service at that point. Why? Because they're going to be dealing with the current retirees next year. That's what they do. Anyone that's retiring, they deal with the issues about retirement. So if you're retired, you have to go to the customer service group. Okay, the next thing we need to do is this is a packet that you receive. I always advise people to sort your packets so it's not very confusing. One of the things I mentioned earlier when we were starting is, I'm sorry, I'm apologizing on behalf of the General Board of Pensions that the application forms look alike. I've been trying to tell them to make them different, especially per plan, and I'm not getting any response. So the only thing I can assist you with is, let's just sort them out so that it's not confusing. So the first thing I always do is, which are the forms and which are the booklets? Okay, the first form is it's called Clergy Retirement Security Program, the blue form. See? This is the blue form. Now this form, if you have that in your packet, means you're enrolled in the plan. If you don't have this, that means you're not enrolled in the plan, okay? Because this is the current plan that we have right now. So this is the Clergy Retirement Security Program, CRSP. as we fondly call it, and then there is a form called Clergy Retirement Security Program. You have to read after the application form, after the bar line. That's where you have the different plans. So this says application for benefits dash retired participant, and then underneath says Clergy Retirement Security Program, okay? So make sure you have the same right form with the right booklet. So I do is this one, this form goes inside here, and then I put this aside. The next form that I want to deal with is called the Ministerial Pension Plan. That's another plan that you have. Now, if you did not participate in the old plan from 1982 to 2006, this is the old plan, then you probably don't have this. But if you do, most of you are, you should have this booklet, and then there's two forms that go with this. You've got the application form also. Underneath the line, it says Ministerial Pension Plan, MPP. Okay? You've got that. That's one form. And the other form that goes with this is called the rollover form. It says Ministerial Pension Plan Rollover Agreement for Pension Distribution. So you should have two forms with regards to MPP. Right? So MPP, the booklet, the application form, and the rollover form, put them all together inside the booklet. And then you have the United Methodist Investment Plan. This is the UMPIP, another booklet. And you should have a form that goes with this as well. And it's called UMPIP. Here it is. UMPIP. Okay? It says underneath application for benefits, United Methodist Personal Investment Plan. Okay? So you should have a form that goes with that. Oh, I already have one here. So you got three booklets. And then who among you have pre-82 service? That means you served prior to 1982. 1, 2, okay, 3, whatever. You should have a form that says Supplement 1 to CRSP. Supplement 1 to CRSP. It's one sheet. It's a Supplement 1 to CRSP pre-82, just one sheet. For those who have pre-82 service. If you did not serve prior to that, you wouldn't have this, okay? So these are all the forms that we're going to talk about today. The rest of the forms are very personal forms in the sense that you have to talk about your tax withholding, whether you want tax withholding, beneficiary information, state income tax, all of those forms, W-4 forms. That form I suggest, or depository agreement form, you can look at that later because that's, that is depending on your information. And so I would suggest you just close your booklet and we're done. Okay? So we're going to talk about now the forms. Okay? So you've got all of these forms in front of you. You've got 3 booklets and 1 application form. This is all we're going to talk about. And hopefully you have the copy of my presentation. The first terminology that you need to be aware of is called the DAC, Denominational Average Compensation. What is this? This is important because it is the factor that will determine your benefit in the current plan that we have. Okay? So the DAC for 2014 is $65,186. So this is calculated at the General Board of Pensions every year. So next year we already have 2015. Why do we have 2015? Because the data that we use is lagged 2 years behind. What does that mean? Well, 2014, we used the data in 2012, meaning all the compensations in the whole denomination, all conferences. When I talk about compensation, that means it includes housing. Whether you have parsonage or housing allowance, that's included in the calculation. Also included are the bishop's salaries, their compensations, and people who are in extension ministries participating in the plans. So all of this data in 2012 was calculated to project the 2014 DAC. Since 2013 has ended, we now know also the DAC in 2015. Okay? Now, why is this important? Because the question here is, well, should I postpone my benefit or not? And for each of the plans that we're going through, I'm going to tell you why you should or you should not get your benefit. And by the way, in case you're wondering, are this all taxable? The answer is a resounding yes. Anything you get at the General Board of Pensions starting at retirement is taxable. Okay? You just need to do the housing allowance exclusion if you want to minimize the taxes. But everything that you get, when I say get, that means it's in your checking account or savings account. Rolling over money to another account, another institution, that's not taxable because you don't have it in your hand. Okay? Once it's in your checking or savings account, it's taxable. That means anything you get from the General Board, we will report to the government to say, this is how much Reverend he or she got from the General Board, and so you'll be taxed for them. Okay, so this is a DAC now for 2014. So that means when we calculate the benefit for the CRSP defined benefit, it will be based on that formula, that amount, 65,186. Okay, let's talk about the death and disability program. Again, I mentioned earlier, not everybody is in this program. If you're not sure you're enrolled in this program, you have to talk to Trudy. But if you are enrolled in this program, the benefit that's available for you will be the death benefit, which is the life insurance benefit. And the uniqueness of this plan is once you're retired, there are no more premiums. Because currently, as an active person, the church is being billed with for this, 3% of your comp. But once you're retired, there's no more billing, but you still get a benefit, which is very different from the secular world, the outside world. When you have life insurance, you still pay for it even though you're retired. Here, there's no more, there is no more premiums. For you, since you're a disability, you have this program. You have this program. Okay, so if something happens to you at retirement, starting 2014, by the way, what's your retirement date? Your retirement date's July 1st. So that means by July 1st, you are considered retired according to the books of the General Board of Pensions. Okay? So even if you submit these forms now, you will not get any benefit until after July 1st, because that's the eligibility date. Okay? Unless, of course, you want to take some money out of your UMPIP, which is a different plan. But for the benefits provided by the church, the pension plan provided by the church, you can only take it after July 1st. So, because some people change their mind at the last minute and don't retire. So July 1st, what's your birthday? Are you 65? Are you 63? So if your birthday is July 2nd, we will still go with July 1st, okay, in terms of eligibility. So for a person dying, a retired person passing away, so there's the death of a retired participant. That means the participant passes away, the clergy. And so the family gets about $20,000. Okay? Now, if the clergy spouse passes away before the retired participant, there's a benefit going to you as a clergy. It's $15,000. Surviving spouse means the clergy has passed away. Now you have a surviving spouse, and then the surviving spouse passes away, then the family or estate gets $10,000. And lastly, if you have a child who is considered dependent, meaning 17 years or younger in your household, if that child passes away, then the retired person, the retired clergy, gets about $8,000. Okay. So
there's nothing we need to do until the event actually happens, though.
Yes. And other than make sure your beneficiaries are the persons you want to receive the benefits, okay? And that's a good question because we don't know how long you're going to be living. Your beneficiary now might not be the same beneficiary 10 years from now. If your spouse perhaps passes away or you have a divorce, you can designate another person to receive the benefit upon your death. So make sure your beneficiaries are the persons you want to receive the benefit, okay? Okay, the other thing I want to mention here is I know you talk to your friends. Pretty much you compare benefits. With regards to this death benefit, if you have friends who retired before 2013, this is not the death benefit that they're going to receive. Their benefit is based on the DAC. And actually, to be honest, you have a higher benefit than they do, okay? So if you talk about benefits with your friends, don't compare the amounts, because they will probably say, why are you getting that and I'm only getting this? Well, it's according to the plan. The plan was changed, Comprehensive Protection Plan was changed in the General Conference 2012. And we're going to be looking at this death benefits on a quarterly basis every 4 years to make sure that it's still adequate. Because if it might not be adequate in, 8 years from now, then we'll probably have to change it. But for now, starting 2013 until the foreseeable future, this is the death benefit for retired spouse, retired participant, retired spouse, retired surviving spouse, and child of a retired couple. Okay? Questions about the death benefit? Again, there is no premium. You're still going to receive this benefit whether you like it or not. I'm sure you don't want it because something would have happened if you get this. I mean, if your family gets this. Okay. The term annuity. We're going to talk about this word. We're going to say this word a lot. Annuity. What does this word mean, annuity? Just in case you're not clear about it, it's a stream of payments. And it's usually designated for a period of time. Lifetime, so there's joint in life, or for a certain period, 5 years, 10 years. So this is actually a benefit given for a long time. And the plan that you have right now, most of them are life annuity, meaning as long as you're living, then this benefit is given to you. And then when you choose the plan wherein you share it with your spouse, that means upon your death, your spouse continues to benefit as a certain percentage. Okay? So let's start with the new plan called CRSP. There are actually 2 plans for you. One is the 6 months that you've served from January 2014 until June of this year. That's a new plan. And then the prior plan was from 2007 to 2013. So you actually have 2 plans that, if you were not aware of, that you're going to be receiving. And they're different from each other because of the calculation that's going to be done. Let's talk about the first one. Clergy Retirement Security Program has got 2 components. See? It's not just a simple, oh, I've got this plan. No, there's really 2 components. There's a defined benefit, meaning given to you for your lifetime. And then if you're married, then your spouse continues, unless your spouse says, I don't need it, then he or she can sign off. And then defined contribution plan. Let's talk about the defined benefit first. The defined benefit is based on the formula. And this is where the DAC amount is that's important. Okay, what is this formula? For the 6 months that you've served, from January of 2014 until June 2014, we're going to talk, it's here. The formula says 1% multiplied by the DAC this year, then and then the years, I mean the 6 months, then you get a benefit of about $27 per month. Okay? Because you served for 6 months this year, then you're entitled to receive about $27 per month for that current plan that we have. What about the prior, before 2014? Well, there were 7 years from 2006 to 2013. The multiplier is different. It's 1.25% instead of the 1%, right? We have 1% now. So it's 1.25% multiplied by the years from 2007 to 13. We're talking about full-time equivalent. So if you're serving half-time, then we will gather all your half-time for full-time equivalent. So you might not have 7 years. This is just an example of someone that's full-time. So this person's 7 years full-time. So the calculation will be 1.25% multiplied by the DAC this year, and then times 7 years, then you're looking at $475 per month. So with regard to the defined benefit for CRSP, you add them together, you add them together, so you're looking at about $502 per month for this CRSP defined benefit program. because you serve full-time. Okay. Any questions about the defined benefit plan? Okay, now if you're retiring less than normal retirement, meaning you did not serve 40 years of service, or you are not age 65 by July 1st, what happens? Well, there is a reduction. Because according to the Book of Discipline, paragraph 358, normal retirement means you have to be 65 by July 1st, or have had 40 years of service. So if you don't have any of those, then you are not normal, we considered normal retirement. You are actually retiring. You have a lesser early retirement. So this is an example. For people who are age 63 by July 1st, they're 2 years short. 2 years short of age 65, okay? So when we calculate this, the reduction is actually 0.5% per month that you're short of. So every year that you're short of the benefit, that means it's 6%. So for this person who's 63, retiring at age 63, 2 years short of 65, so 12% reduction. Okay?
Does that increase to the full
No.
amount at age? That's what I thought. Once it's down. it's
Once
down.
there, it's like Social Security. This is similar to Social Security. When you retire early, then what the normal retirement and Social Security is, you have a reduction. It's not going to go back. It's not going to increase when you reach 65. No. Okay? So this is set at the beginning. You have a reduction and this continues, 2% annual increases. So for this example, this person has a reduction of $60. So instead of $502, this person's receiving about $442 per month. Okay?
Now, I'm going to actually be about 90 days short of.
So there's going to be a little,
birthday, so I'm going to take another 6% hit, right?
no, they're going to calculate that.
Okay.
How many, how many?
Prorated.
Prorated, yeah.
Prorata 0.5% a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's 6% per year. So how many?
Half,
Yeah.
1.5%.
1.5%. So they're going to prorate it. It's not going to be, depending on how long you're short off. You know, if your birthday is August, so you're 1 month short of July, then there's 1 month, 6% divided by 12. So that's what your reduction is.
January,
So you'll be 6 months.
6 months, okay.
Yeah.
3%.
3%, yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's prorated. You're not going to be penalized for that 6 months if you're short. Okay? So the other thing with regards to this benefit is if you're married, the assumption is you're going to share this with your spouse. And I always say, if you like your spouse very much, and I'm kidding. People think, oh, that's what Josie said. No, I'm kidding. If you're married, the assumption is you're going to share the benefit. What does that mean, share the benefit? That means you're going to receive the benefit first, and then when you die as a clergy, the spouse continues the benefit. See? So that means we're talking about 2 lifetimes. As long as your spouse is living, the benefit will be provided to him or her. Okay? So you have to decide, how much should I give my spouse? 70, 85, 100. We're going to look at that in terms of what does that mean. And then choice of cost of living. The forms that you have is 2% cost of living. That's how it's been calculated. So if you don't like the 2%, you want more than 2%, you can elect 3, 4, or 5. We're going to show what that means in a few minutes too, okay? But that's the decision you need to do with regards to your defined benefit. All right, let's look at the form now. Let's look at the booklet called CRSP. It's the blue form, blue. Here's your booklet and here's your form. So I have a form called CRSP. So on page 1, part 2, the defined benefit monthly annuity distribution. Okay? You tell the retirement team or the system, when do you want to start the benefit? You want to start July 1st? You want to start January 1st of 2015? Why? Why do you give choices? Because in some instances, some clergy want to have their taxes done on a yearly basis. Because if you start your benefit this year, you're half retired and half active. 6 months you're active and 6 months you're retired, okay? So that's confusing to some people. So some people say to me, oh, I'll just start January 1st. And again, by the way, if you don't need this benefit, you can postpone getting it. I will repeat that in all the forms. If you have some income while you're retired, you can postpone getting the benefit. That means you don't send the form back to us. Don't send the form, don't send your forms in, and then you don't get a benefit. Although there was someone that did not send the forms in and then called us after a month and said, where's my benefit? And we have to say, well, you have to submit your forms. By the way, your forms is, the validity of these forms is 6 months. So if you're going to get your benefit in November or October, you need to get new forms. Because you can't submit this and then get a distribution in September. We will say you need to complete a new one. Okay? So the first one, part 2, page 1 says, when do you want to start the benefit? Okay, the question I'm raising here now is, if you postpone getting this benefit, do you think it's going to increase? If you decide to do this next year, it's like, oh, I don't need the money right now. I'll just define my defined benefit. I'll just get it next year or first of the year.
Probably because of the new forms.
No, the forms is just completing. Let me, again, do you?
Matrix on here, so I assume that it does not.
It does not.
Yeah.
Remember, the formula is based on your years of service and the DAC. The DAC at the time of retirement is this year. So if you get this 5 years from now, it's still going to be based on 2014 DAC. It's still going to be based on 7 years and a half, right? Because it's a formula. That's the formula. Well, the new forms is for the others. Well, we always need a new form because we have to make sure it's the most appropriate forms. Because the next part we're going to talk about that. Okay? So is that clear? Defined benefit is based on the formula. And the formula stays the same whether you postpone the benefit or not. So that's the first part.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are the figures in here examples?
Yes. We're going to go, yeah, the examples are there.
And with the forms, these are the actual numbers for our.
Okay, yes. The other thing that I want to make you aware of is you have the form, and up on the upper left-hand side, there is a number there. There's a date. That date is important. Why? That's the date that the forms was created. So if you look at your numbers, it's not going to say 502, right? We saw earlier 500, because mine is as of February. As of February, this is the amount, or this is the benefit that you're receiving based on the years that you serve, up to January or February. By July of this year, that's going to be, we assume, well, you're going to be working until July, by June 30. So you're going to get the benefit. Okay, this is where I have a hard time explaining. These forms are important because the decisions you made are important, okay? But the numbers, I know, are important too, but these are the numbers that you won't get because of the when the form was created. The form was created in February, so as of February, this is the numbers that's applicable.
This would have been if you would have retired and started getting it on the date that's there.
You can't get it, no, you can't get it on this date because your retirement date July. Yeah.
That's what you would have got.
If your retirement date was as of that date, yes, you would have got. Thank you.
Since it's later, there's more.
Yeah. So actually what we need from you is your decision. Do you want to get this form? Yes. When? So you put the date. Okay. The next thing that we're going to look at is how do you share this benefit with your spouse? There it is, up there on the top. Okay, remember that chart. Because that chart is very important in terms of what is the sharing of benefit. It's going to be similar to the MPP as well. The first box says, okay, this is based on your years of service before 2014. So that means that's the 7 years from 2006 to 2013. And it tells you there, okay, if I'm going to share this with my wife or my spouse, 70%, 85%, 100%, it's payable to me. So I get it first, and then when I pass away, my spouse continues this, okay? And then the second chart says, okay, from January of this year until July of this year, this is the benefits that's available to me, again, sharing with your spouse. There's others there with regards to life with 10 years certain, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, but that's how you read this information. You don't get the benefit simultaneously, like Social Security. Someone has to die first, okay? You get the benefit first, and then someone dies, and then the spouse gets it. It cannot be at the same time. So that's why you have to look at payable to me as clergy first. So how do you decide that? Okay. So if I give my spouse 75% versus 100%, what does that mean? Well, again, if I like my spouse very much, not really, but this is how you decide these things. You're looking towards the future. That means today versus 20 years from now upon my death, or 10 years, whatever. And so you're now looking at the situation of your spouse by that point in time. At that point in time, your spouse needs more benefit because she never worked in her life, he or she never worked in his life, only went with me to my ministry, no pension other than what he or she will get from my pension, probably needs more. What about today? Well, today I need more money because I have a lot of health issues. So if you look at this, the more you share to your spouse, 100%, you get less. So if it's only 70% to your spouse, the benefit is $391. That means it's more benefit to me. But if you give your spouse 100%, then it's lesser to me, it's $375, although your spouse gets more. If your spouse has a very healthy pension plan, it's a lawyer, a teacher, teachers got a good pension plan, perhaps they won't need the benefit. So these are the things that you're going to try to decide, what do we need today versus what the spouse will need in the future. And if you're looking at numbers, it's not a lot of changes from $391 to $375, $20, less than $20. But it is how you're going to share the benefit. Okay? And then the next one, which is the annuity increase, is where you're going to, what cost of living are you going to choose from? And again, that is something that we will talk about in a few minutes too with regards to MPP. Okay. The other part of this plan, the CRSP, is the DC. Remember, defined contribution? Whether you're aware of it or not, since 2007, your church has been putting 3% of your compensation, which includes housing, into an account balance for you. And if you were paying attention, every quarter you have your statement of account. It said CRSP. And there's money there that's been growing. If the market tanked, that money went down because it's invested in the market. Okay? So you're hoping that by July of this year, that money will grow more. That's why it's important with regards to the date. Because as of this date, when you look at page 4 of this form, you will see part 3 says my online application is this amount. Your CRSP DC account balance as of a date is X dollars. Everyone see that? So you know as of this date, of whatever date that was, that's the amount of money you have. And since there's three more months to go, that will still increase because there's more contributions and earnings. So if you're going to decide to get this money next year, you want to make sure you have the correct form because the amount is going to be different. Because it's up and down depending on market conditions. And so this is a decision. Do you want to get the money now? Because the market could go really, really well in the next 2 years. So I can postpone getting that money because I know it's taxable. So the DC account, defined contribution account, is something that you can think about to say, do I really need it now? Can I postpone this? Because it can grow, or it can also be reduced. It could be reduced, market conditions.